goes quick, and you're doing great.
Thank you. Thank you. Hope I'm like answering your questions.
Oh yeah, you're doing fantastic. So just to snowball that, I guess, is there anything that you feel needs to be discussed in the?
I don't think so. No, I think that pretty much. I mean, when people ask me what I do, like that's pretty much what I tell people.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of the high points.
Obviously, this is from an outside-in perspective, but do you think there's anything that other hospitals could be doing to improve their cultures?
They can put somebody in charge of what I'm doing. If it's a small hospital, then a small scale. But it usually falls on like the managers in a small hospital, and they can get the training. You know, I obviously went through lots of training for this, the Schutzes. Bigger hospitals, I think it would be in their best interest to invest in a program like this and in a department like this.
Maybe just explain what the Schutz program is, because
Sure.
If I heard that, I wouldn't know. You
would have no idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I get it. So way back again before we opened, we hired strategic partners called the Schutz Company, and this is the body of work that they specialize in. It's called the human element, and it's a pretty broad body of work, but most of it focuses on learning about yourself, what makes you tick, how you behave towards other people, your levels of accountability, blame, self-esteem, defenses, things like that, so that we can recognize them when they crop up.
Basically, learn how to work with yourself so that
Yes.
you can work with others.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because if we don't know what makes ourselves tick, then how am I expected to know how anybody else does? I mean,
Right.
some people are mysteries, and they always will be. But as long as they show up to work, do their job, and are nice to other people, go home, enjoy their lives, like, we
Fine.
shouldn't have a problem
Right,
here.
right, yeah.
And they do their jobs well. I mean, that,
Right.
we're not, I didn't even mention the technical factors
Right.
around all of this.
Right.
So that, of course, is super important.
Yeah.
Well,
Like-
we mentioned, if you have the right skills, put you on the seat. But if these two people, even though they have the right skills, are on the seat next to each other and it doesn't work, then we
Yeah,
still got to move
then maybe
it around.
they need to-
it's
we
not
need to do
just-
some work.
It's not just identifying
Yeah.
the strengths.
And
it's
I
also,
think,
yeah.
recognizing in yourself what makes you react, how you react to
Mhm.
certain things that people might say,
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
also helps in when you're working with people to, like, let's say you say something to me that I don't like, but you don't know that that's something that really bothers me,
Mhm.
and I react poorly. If
Mhm.
I know that that's something that triggers me and
Mhm.
I'm going to react poorly, I can at least say to you then, because I'm
Yeah.
being aware of it,
Yes.
hey, this thing, I don't like when people say this thing to
Exactly.
me. So, maybe just change the way you approach me when you say things like
This
that.
Exactly.
guy really doesn't like me. Every time I talk to him, he just explodes on me.
Yeah, right. And if you don't know that about yourself, or at least
Yeah.
some people know things about themselves and are aware of things, but they don't know how to handle it or
Yeah.
how to control their reaction to it.
Exactly.
And if you learn how to control your reaction to
Yeah.
the things around you, you're much better off in any situation, not just work.
100%.
And
Yeah,
controlling
I was-
your emotion is, a hard thing for everybody.
Yeah.
But when you know the triggers, then you can then adjust to how you react to that.
Right.
After that. Like, for instance, I'm a person that I don't. So I'm not a morning person, and I tend to usually come in around between 10 and 12, right? Most people are here early in the morning if they're
Mhm.
working a day shift. And I started realizing over the last year, especially because I've been working on my reaction to things, if I came in at, let's say, like 8 o'clock, people would be like, oh, wow, look at you got here. And I started realizing, like, it would make me, like, internally mad.
Yeah.
Like, almost like, oh, I'm not a normal person because I don't
Right.
get here at 8 o'clock every day, or
Right.
like, because I don't have a set time to be
Right.
here, really.
Yeah.
And so rather than start responding to people like that, like,
Mhm.
oh, what am I, not a normal person? Like,
Right.
Defensive.
whatever, and get defensive. I started just telling people, like, hey, that kind of makes me feel a weird way.
Mhm.
Like, if it's okay to joke with me about it,
Mhm.
but, like, maybe don't do it in a way that makes me feel like
Mm-hmm.
I'm out
I feel
of
like I'm
reality.
being judged.
Right. It feels like a judgment, and,
Right.
and that's on me.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's also on me to tell people when
Yeah.
that bothers me, so that they know not to approach me that way.
Yeah. Exactly.
So if everybody kind of approached their
Mhm.
own internal whatever.
Yes.
Then,
Oh, yeah.
You know,
The open lines of communication about ourselves is really important, and
Yeah.
understanding our triggers is really important. So,
yeah.
and this body of work also translates into your life outside of work. It's changed, you know, people's relationships with their parents, their siblings, their significant others, their friends. This is a program that everybody needs to go through called Foundations of the Human Element. Is a program based around what we call the Guardian Way, and that's where we learn. It's like it's now a 3-day program, and it's pretty intensive, and we learn about ourselves and our reactions and our defenses and all the stuff that we believe goes into helping people get along the best that they possibly can. And all of that, again, is in service of not just work, but I think it's a gift. I really do. I don't know any other hospital that does it. And I think being, sitting in this program and learning all of this very valuable information really translates into making us better people, I like to think.
Yeah.
I mean, people have transformative experiences around that. Like, oh, I never knew I did that. I never knew I reacted like that.
Right.
I never knew I was defensive like that. I never knew what my defense triggers were. I never understood that, I'm not I don't hold myself accountable for things.
Right.
And one of the things that we also talk about is what we call triangulation, which is otherwise known as gossiping. Because there's always, any workplace, forget the vet med industry, there's gossip. Talk about the water cooler analogy. There's,
Right.
And we try to also minimize that because, if I go to Albert about a problem I'm having with Nakoma, I'm not going to Nakoma with the problem, and that's the way that's going to get solved. I've just involved Albert, unfortunately. And this guy's probably I don't know what. Either he's going to be I don't want to deal with this, or he's going to be going around to 3 other people being oh my God, Jana's having this huge problem,
Did you hear
and
this?
blah,
Yeah,
blah,
right.
blah, blah, right. And that's also one of the big things that we work on here is trying to keep that to a minimum, because that's really where the toxicity in workplace environments
sure,
comes
yeah,
from.
yeah.
People backbiting. And there's not just personal things. Sometimes people will backbite about, oh, this one can't even put in a catheter properly, or this one can't
getting
run
professional
anesthesia.
stuff.
Yeah, the professional stuff. That's not appropriate either.
Right.
If you feel like that, then maybe you offer up to the person, hey, you need some help with that?
Right.
Do you need some extra
Or
training
let me
with
teach
that?
you a better way to
Right.
do this.
Exactly.
Or, yeah.
Because ultimately, it ends up on the pet care, right?
Yep.
If technically there's something going on, obviously that affects the pet care. But
Yep.
also beyond that, the interpersonal stuff. If the people handling the pets are feeling a certain way, feeling stressed, hard, tight, it's hard to then be loose and warm and caring and loving to
Exactly.
an animal that is hurting and
Exactly.
needing our help and things like that. So I think there's a lot to be said about all of this smoothing out of the hard edges that don't need to be there in this interpersonal stuff. Does end up translating into better medicine, right?
It does.
And
It
from a
absolutely
client
does.
perspective, people think that the client doesn't recognize when 2 people working together aren't working well together.
Yeah.
And they do. You pick
Yeah.
up on
Pick on
people's
that real
energy
fast.
when
Yeah, they can. They see the little clues.
right, and that is definitely a thing that, it's one thing to say in the back, people have an issue together, but if you have to work together and then you're going up front to get a pet or, deal with a client in an exam room or whatever, and you
Right.
kind of go in there with this bad energy towards each other, immediately as a
Translates.
client you're like, what's going on here? Maybe I don't want these 2 people working with my pet.
Or
And-
maybe I don't want to leave my pet here all
Right, right.
alone with these people,
Right, yeah.
depending on how bad the interaction is. But
Also, usually they're
absolutely.
coming in for an emergency situation. They're
Yeah.
not leveled. They're
Nope.
at a stressful point. Their
Yeah.
heart rate's elevated, things like that, and they're
Yeah.
looking for calmness. And they get
Yes.
somebody, just
Right,
getting hard at
coming in,
them.
yeah.
Okay, so it's
Yeah.
all of it is a whole perspective of how
It is.
um,
It really, it involves, it encompasses a great deal of what goes on in this hospital without anybody even really being that aware of it.
Mhm.
Because we're not always aware of ourselves.
Right, yeah.
So how can we always be aware of that in other people? So again, that's what the program teaches us. Like, if we're self-aware, we can recognize things in other people and ourselves and figure out a way to mitigate that and work out problems while being accountable for our own stuff.
Yeah.
So
Accountability is hard, and
it
honestly,
is very
even,
hard.
Even harder for people in leadership positions, I would
Yep.
say, right?
Very
it's a
hard.
tough thing to say, you know, I made a wrong decision or I messed up here. It's really easy to say, you made a wrong decision,
Uh-huh.
you messed up here, you
Yeah.
know? So,
It's all about accountability and blame, and that's not always being accountable is making ourselves better people, and blaming people is just making ourselves worse people.
Yeah. And the more you blame, the easier it gets to blame.
Oh yeah.
Because then it's almost like this like dopamine effect. It's like you blame somebody, now I don't feel so bad for what
Right.
happened.
you're right. I'm
Right.
right. It's not me.
Right. You know
Self,
what? It's
you're
not
right.
me.
It's not my
Yeah.
fault.
It's a big It's
Yeah.
a big, you can get on a huge soapbox and blaming people like crazy if
Right.
you really want to, and none of us are perfect. I
Yeah.
mean, that's the other thing is I instill in people, nobody's perfect, and that's fine. I don't expect anybody to be perfect.
Yeah.
If you need help with anything, I'm here to help, rebuild on that, wherever somebody thinks that they're lacking. But it's just my hope that people really take the Guardian Way and the principles to heart. And a lot of them are really simple things, like just be nice. Like, one of them is literally be nice.
Which you would
Literally
think
be
would
nice.
just be obvious.
And
but
one would think.
Yeah, but it's
golden
it's
rule.
Not
yeah,
always
it's
the
not,
case.
yeah. People just think like, hey, I'm just going to go to work and just do my job, and I don't
Yeah.
care about anything
Exactly.
else. And like that,
It's
especially in a
not-
place like this, it can't be.
No, it
Yeah.
can only, like, this is not a remote job.
Yeah.
You can go home, sit in front of your computer screen, put on a smiley face, and then turn around and bitch under the table about the person in the Zoom meeting.
Yeah.
We really can't do that.
Yeah.
And I don't
Actually,
want people to do it.
That brings me to a question I actually had about our past 7 years here. We went through and survived a pandemic period. How do you feel that, speaking of forcing to talk to people on screens and things like that, how much of the post-pandemic shift have you felt in the culture? Because I think we learned how to do things one way, and then had to relearn how to do things.
Well, I mean, there's the technical stuff around that. I think that, believe it or not, even though it was a stressful time for the world, basically, we managed to figure out a system here with a schedule that minimized the stress for people. But it was a very stressful time for people because clients weren't even allowed in the building,
Right.
and so forth. Has that? I think that kind of stress has lessened to an extent.
The age of curbside service was
That was
wild.
wild.
That was
Time.
wild. It was weird.
Yeah.
It was wild, and we still have
It's
some
still there,
carryovers to the protocols around that. So, but I don't know. I'm not 100% sure what the right answer is to that question.
I think there was, I think that because that was such a stressful time, it actually made people more
Have more camaraderie.
yeah, and like humbled them a little to like what a really bad situation could be.
Yeah.
As opposed to like, oh, I'm just having an off week and like it's so busy here and it's driving me crazy. It's like, but remember the pandemic and how
Remember when we were
crazy-
locked down?
Yeah, remember when we
Yeah.
couldn't do anything? Remember when
Yeah.
everybody had to, come to work with a mask on and everybody had to kind of stay away from each other as much as possible, and like, if you were having a great day, you couldn't high five your best friend that worked in the department
Right.
with you, like.
Right.
Right.
So
No
I,
hugs.
Yeah, I think it
No
really
touching.
No
created
touching.
a more of a camaraderie
Yeah.
amongst the people
It
here,
did.
surviving that
Yeah.
that time together.
I think so too. I think we did pull together very well as a team.
Yeah.
And also, we were as an aside, we were super busy because other hospitals were turning patients away,
Yeah,
tragically. And we never said no to anybody, which did put, even though everybody's working together really nicely as a team, it did put a lot of extra stress on us just because we still want to provide the best care possible, not half-assed care just because we're the only option for people in the area.
Right.
So,
And it created a sense of pride.
It
like,
did.
I work
It
at
did.
Guardian, and we stayed open, and we took care of everybody's pets who got turned away. So, You know, I mean,
Yeah.
even for me, who's
That's
not even
huge.
involved in the medical side, I was like, it was like awesome to be here and tell people like, if your pet needs something, we're open. Like,
We're not going to turn you away.
We're not going to turn you away.
Nope.
It might take a little bit to get you in because we got people down the driveway
Right.
coming in, but
You got somebody from Buffalo coming in. Like,
right,
Yeah.
yeah. And so I think it definitely created a sense of pride around, and even within the industry itself, just people. I don't know for sure, but I would imagine that the smaller hospitals are like, wow, I can't believe that they were able to do that or manage the amount
Yeah.
of things that were being sent here,
Yeah.
just because other hospitals couldn't handle it.
They couldn't handle it, or they
yeah.
didn't want to handle
Or
it.
they didn't want
I
to.
don't.
Yeah,
I
which
don't
is
know
crazy.
what I don't know what the case is, but we had some really unfortunate cases that other hospitals turned away, and then pets really ill and turned up on our doorstep dead.
Right, because
Yeah.
the hour it took them
Because-
to get here
right.
was,
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, we had a couple of those tragedies, and I think people learned, like, if that was your pet, like our employees here, if that was your pet and you got turned away from 2 different hospitals, I mean, that's
I would only ever want
horrifying.
to come here.
Yeah.
At that point.
It's horrifying. So, we have a policy till this day that we always say yes. We still don't turn people away. Ever.
Yeah.
And other hospitals will, I'm not going to name names, but other hospitals are very much like, we've got a 6-hour wait and, you might want to go home, or we're not, all this kind of stuff. And it's like, yeah, you might have a long wait here, but you're going to get seen, and you're just going to have to be a little bit patient, because
Right.
we don't turn people away, because we have pride in what we do and we want to help.
Yeah.
And we can, because everybody on any given day, everyone's attitude is really positive, and they want to help. I mean, the area where I sit is where patients are taken into the treatment area in the back of the hospital, and I see how the assistants and the technicians are so good with the patients. They, even when a patient is really hesitant to go back there, they're so kind to their patient. They just, I mean, when so many of your videos are just about our team just snuggling their patients
Yeah.
on whatever. They're sitting there typing records, and they got one arm around the pet and, calming them down if they're stressed, or sometimes just petting like a wiggly pit, so we embrace those moments as well, because when you're feeling stressed, sometimes you do. I mean, we don't see many puppies and kittens per se.
Yeah.
And if they are
It's
here,
usually-
they're
They're
not
all
healthy.
puppies and kittens.
Yeah, but we take moments to, sometimes if I'm stressed, I might just go into the back and be like, all right, who's got something cute? I'm gonna pet it.
Yeah.
Just 5 minutes of petting a patient can really turn your day around in
Obviously
a way.
not a derm patient.
Not a derm.
Yeah.
Nothing with like some communicable disease, but and we take the time to do that if needed. So,
Yeah.
and we take a lot of pride in our successes, and we get very, very upset when we can't save a patient.
Yeah.
But I mean, we all get together and support one another in that.
Yeah. I've
So-
definitely seen, unfortunately, in the times when we lose a pet or something, like, I've seen team members crying. I've seen,
It's hard.
Yeah.
But usually in those moments, there is not only a level of compassion for the patient, but for each other.
Yes.
If somebody was helping, let's say a dog came in for a surgery, they did the surgery, the patient was here for a week, and then we lose the patient.
That's really,
People get
really
so
rough.
attached in that week.
They do.
And they're so hopeful for that patient.
They are,
And
yeah.
then if unfortunately, which hasn't in my experience happened a lot.
No.
Unfortunately,
Still.
if that does happen, like, people really are so attached to these pets and like
Yeah.
so hopeful for them that
Yeah.
it really digs at them when
Yes.
we lose a patient, unfortunately.
It is really.
But the team always
tough.
comes together for that person,
They do.
or the
Or the
the whole
group.
team.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that it's really nice to view from my viewpoint, because I'm not in the medical side at all, really. And anything I know about the medical side is based on what I've learned here in the last 4 years.
Yeah.
So from the like I keep saying, I have more of a client perspective. I think it's so
Yeah.
nice to see, like, just that people
yeah.
actually cared about the pet. They care about each other. They it's created a good environment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just hope that the owners can see that, so they're less likely to think that we're here because we came into this business to make loads of money, which is hilarious to me.
Yeah.
But
I think that's also what our focus is going to be for this podcast. Not complete focus for this podcast is like, we want to talk about the things like this so that people understand that it's, you know, there are things that are happening behind the scenes that you don't see.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just, we're not just here taking care of pets. We're here caring for pets, like, you know, being compassionate and empathetic.
Right.
And,
And there's a price to pay for that, for gold standard care, which is what we offer.
Yeah.
You know. I've worked in a lot of different places, big hospitals, little hospitals, and this place by far is just the caliber of care, the caliber of people, the caliber of just wanting what's best for not just our pets, but for our people is so high. The bar is set so high.
Yeah.
I don't think I could go and work anywhere else. I would be like, what in
What are
God's
you
name is
doing
going
here?
on
Yeah.
here? Yeah, like, it would be like a group of aliens, basically, to me. So, yeah, I hope that my position has a positive effect on people, but I can't do it all either.
Yeah.
People have to hold themselves accountable for themselves and each other.
Yeah.
So if there's some poor behavior going on or some toxic behavior, I expect that the next person standing there is going to say to the other person, like, hey, you need 5 minutes? Go take it.
Yeah.
Can I do something for you?
Yeah.
So that you're not slamming doors and muttering under your breath.
Right.
So I'm not, you know, I don't perform magic. I just,
Especially when there's, again, 200
This
plus
many.
people to keep up with. You know, it's
and
impossible.
in our other 3 hospitals
Right now,
too.
other hospitals, yeah.
And
So
we still grow. We keep growing.
we're going to grow, and the department's going to grow, and you know, we're going to continue to train people to do what I do so that they can spread the good word, help mediate between people who are having problems, help run the workshop that we run, so that none of our hospitals are lacking for this sort of department and this sort of treatment of the employees.
Right.
Because as a guardian employee, this should be something that you are guaranteed. This training, this philosophy, it shouldn't be any different at any one of our other hospitals than it is here.
Right.
So it takes a little work, but you know, we'll get people up to speed and
Getting there.
getting there. We are.
And I think it's relatively easy for us to develop a little more empathy for the clients and the patients, because the majority of our staff, and I think this is true for a lot of the vet industry, are pet owners.
Yeah, yeah.
I think it's easy.
It does
to
make
get
it a
into
little
that.
easier.
Yeah.
When you,
Issues.
I don't know if there's anybody here who doesn't have a pet. I mean, that would be weird to me.
I do, but I'm not going to say who it is.
Yeah.
One of the specialists, actually.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right? It does feel weird. It's like, you don't have a pet.
You don't have a pet. Yeah.
Yeah. It's because this person travels so much.
All right. Well,
Right,
there's
yeah.
that
then
makes
they
sense.
feel
yeah.
like it's not really fair.
It's not fair. But
Right.
but then again, that's showing compassion for the pets.
Yeah.
So you
Don't have
still
them just because
care
I want
enough,
them.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's not like a thing where it's like, oh, I just don't like pets. I don't like dogs. I don't
Yeah,
like cats.
no.
It's more like, I know that this wouldn't be a good setup for this
Right.
pet, which
And-
is, shows a level of care again.
Yeah,
Like-
and self-awareness.
Right.
And so this person says when they're having a bad moment or day, they seek out their patients
Yeah.
or the cutest thing in the hospital
Yeah.
and just play with it for 5-10 minutes, and all of a sudden everything is better. So it's
Yeah.
not like they don't love their patients or pets in general.
Yeah.
It's just it doesn't fit into their lifestyle. But
Right.
as I said, like,
They make up for it in what they do here.
Yeah.
Probably, yeah.
I mean, they didn't go into this for the money either. They get pure enjoyment out of pets and helping owners that own the pets. And, I think that I just,
It does help that we have all these office pets here too. Like,
Yes.
I love like walking past an
Yes.
office and just like if Luna's on the in an office
Bulky.
or when Gator was here, I used to go in that
Mhm.
office all the time when Gator was in.
Yeah.
What's now I think like Lindsay's office. Or,
Yeah.
I would go in there
Yeah.
and just spend 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Hang out with them on the floor.
We should
Yeah.
do an office pet prom king and queen. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Brucey wins.
Yeah.
I don't know. Luna's.
Well, there you
Luna
go.
and Brucey, there you go.
Prom king and
Good
queen.
pair.
Yeah.
They just can't be in the same room.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
yeah, let's end the segment on a lighter note. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your pets?
Oh God, I've got. You want just the dogs and the cats?
Yeah, tell us about your pets.
3 dogs, 2 cats. All are rescues. 3 of the 5 came from here. And one has a really bad heart condition, Chihuahua mix.
That
Go
person.
figure.
Yeah.
And he almost died here multiple times, but our criticalist was able to save him. And our he's under the care of our cardiologist. He gets 6 meds 4 times a day.
Oh, goodness.
And then there's Molly, who is...
I love Molly.
Molly.
Yeah.
She's just Molly.
Yeah.
She's an exotic bully. She was rescued from some drug dealer down in South Carolina
Wow.
2 years ago.
Yeah, I
She was
remember
under
that.
witness
I didn't know that.
protection.
She
Oh my
was,
God.
because I remember when you brought her here, I started taking photos and videos, and you were like, "We're gonna hold off for a little while, just in case." You know,
The
like-
rescue group was really paranoid about it, and
Yeah.
I was like, "Who's checking like New York, like Facebook or Instagram
Yeah.
for their missing dog?" And then there's Jack, our bulldog, who we got from an owner that couldn't take care of him anymore, and then one of the cats was a surrender here. And so I took him home because he has extra toes, and I'm a sucker for cats with extra toes.
You love 'em.
I love him. And then another cat was brought in by my sister-in-law. Like, she found him half dead on the side of the road. It was a really bad. He was in really, really bad shape. But cats are amazing, and we took really good care of him. And so now we
Well,
have him.
might as well keep him.
And he's the sweetest cat ever.
It is something that, I mean, I just posted about that recently. Like, something I love here is that if there's a pet that's here too long and we can't find a home, somebody here will take the pet.
Yeah.
Like,
Or it becomes an office pet.
or an office pet.
Like,
yeah, like
I
Rocky.
forget, there's one in the
Hospital
front
pet.
office right
Rocky.
now.
Yeah,
Rocky.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm one in the
And he's
lab.
great. He loves it up there.
Yeah.
Like,
They're great. They get tons of attention.
Yeah.
But we have a really good track record of farming out our surrenders to quality people.
Yeah.
Who are they are vetted very, very carefully. No
Yeah.
pun intended.
Yeah.
By their potential adopters.
Yeah.
So we have a whole program.
even
around
if
surrenders.
and even if they work here, like, because at first I was like, oh, it must be so easy. You work here, you see a pet you like, you take it, and
Mhm.
it's like there's a whole system for a couple.
There's
You got to go through a whole thing.
You got to jump through hoops.
Yeah.
You got to prove you're a good owner.
Yeah.
You got to, get certain things
Yeah,
ready.
just because you love pets doesn't mean that you're a good pet owner. Like,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Can't always
You need a
just
fishing
bring-
license, but
Yeah.
you don't need a license to have kids or own pets.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
So we do our very, very best. I like to think that we are above and beyond a lot of the other hospitals in this area for sure, maybe regionally, maybe, all across the U.S.
I have my girlfriend's best friend actually brought her dog here. It was a Frenchie.
Yeah.
No surprise there.
Yeah, right.
And she just, like, she didn't know that I worked here.
Oh, really?
And it just, like, came up in conversation one day, and she was like, oh my God, you work at Guardian? And I was like, yeah. She's like, that place is absolutely amazing. And every person I've talked to either says that they brought their pet here and it's amazing, or they work in the industry and they're like, they've said either they would love to work here, or they're like, I don't know if I could work there because it's intense.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But they don't say it in as intense, like,
Mhm.
oh, it's a bad thing, as
Yeah,
like
no.
it's just an intense environment.
not
It's
for everybody.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
We lose
Um,
people quite frequently who can't handle it. They just go and work in a general practice.
Yeah.
That's perfect if that's your speed.
Right. And it's
Right.
good that we're opening hospitals now that have
Yeah.
that, because
We
if you
can
come
move them
here,
over.
we can say, okay, maybe this is a lot for you, but we've
Yeah.
got a GP right down the road.
Yep.
Some of our
so-
interns learned that too. They're like, oh, I think I'm going to go into specialty, or I think I'm going to emergency, and then they go through it. And like,
Mhm.
actually, I'm going to go back home and open a general
Yeah,
practice.
Yeah.
exactly. I mean, it's a great learning experience for a lot of people, especially people who just got out of school or whatever. We expose them to a lot, and we see over 100 patients a day, I believe. There's a lot of stuff that goes
Yeah.
on here in any given. You don't even realize it, but there's a lot of stuff
100
that.
patients a day.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's a lot. So it's something like. So I guess you do the math. It's a lot of patients a year.
Yeah.
So, and I truly believe, dealing with somebody that also deals with clients on a regular basis, that a very large proportion of them have very positive experiences.
Yeah, you can't make everybody happy all the time.
No,
but
you cannot.
I think we're up in the 90 percentile probably of people who are happy with the outcomes.
Yeah.
Even in the tragic ones where they lose their pet. I've seen so many comments and reviews of people saying, I lost my pet, but the hospital and the team did absolutely everything they could to make not only my pet comfortable, but to make us comfortable as pet owners. And I've got a long list of even comments just on Instagram of people thanking us for everything that was done for their pet and for them.
And I like to think that underneath it all, it's a lot of the work that is, we do internally through the culture department, what we teach people to do.
Well, pat yourself on the back a little, because that's...
I didn't create the program, but I like to think that...
Well, you're running it.
I'm running it. So I like to think that I'm having a positive impact in a medical but non-medical way.
Yeah.
Because
Someone's
as I
gotta
said...
be in that seat.
Well, it's good because you understand you understand what happens in the space because you're a doctor.
Yeah.
And I think that if you didn't, your approach to things might be different.
Very.
You wouldn't understand why would somebody be so stressed over.
Right.
It's an important insight.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
So.
it's not something that just anybody can do. Like, we can't just hire somebody who used to do, like, I don't know, was like an admin assistant for, the CEO of some large tech company or whatever.
Right.
They're not going to be able to walk in here and necessarily do this. Like, I think having a background in the industry is incredibly important because I can empathize with the stresses.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
And I know the medicine, and I think it takes that kind of person to be in this role.
Yeah, we know it from kind of the outside looking in a little bit.
Yeah, I mean,
but we
I've
have these
learned-
conversations with all these people who are in it.
Right.
That's how we learn.
I've definitely learned a lot.
Yeah.
Not just about the medicine side of things, but just the culture in the industry as a whole. And it's I don't think I'll ever not be in some kind of veterinary space anymore. I mean, I don't plan on ever leaving Guardian.
That's great.
You heard it here first.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy because technically Guardian was my first client, my first real client as a business, and to say that your first client is going to be your forever client is in any industry or job title is crazy.
Found the one.
This is it. I found the one. Yeah. So
You found your unicorn.
I found my unicorn right away. So
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. I think we can probably. That was great. You were fantastic.
Thank you.
Any parting words for our folks at home?
No, come work for us.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, that's
we
good.
Yeah, we need
love
it.
we love great people, and if you're not the greatest person, we will do our best to help you get there.
Yeah.
And
Awesome.
we will give you plenty of patience to play with.
Yeah. There's never an endless. There's always an endless
shortage.
supply of.
Always. There always will be.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us, Dr. Josel. This has
My
been
pleasure.
Pets, Vets, and Mindsets?
Yes.
Maybe?
Yeah. First official great episode. Well, I don't know if this is the first official. I keep saying official. I'm gonna stop saying official. But
One
this
of the
is
first.
One of the first.
Yeah.
Real episodes, and yeah, you did a great job, Dr.
Thank
Josel,
you.
so thank you.
Make sure to
My
like, comment,
pleasure.
and subscribe. You can find us on whatever platforms you get podcasts on, because I haven't figured that out yet.
Yeah, YouTube. We'll be sharing pieces on Instagram. You'll find the full episodes on YouTube, and eventually we'll be on Spotify. And but
Although,
this
make
is
sure to
good.
follow the other Guardian content: Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn,
Yeah.
TikTok, if
Well,
it's still
TikTok's
around.
going away.
Yeah, really.
And thank you guys
Wait,
for
that's-
joining us again. We'll see you in the next episode.
That's right.
Okay.